I'm Alex Foster and I'm a partner in the private client team at Blick Rothenberg, and I'm joined today by my two fellow partners, Roger Holman and Chris Gilman, who sit in our Trust and Family Office team. So today we're going to be talking about trusts and the recent budget announcements, and in particular how they impact non-doms and long-term residents. So with the new changes, there's for broadly most settlements are set up by non-doms or long-term residents, there will be the income and gains within that trust will be now taxed on the settlor. And in addition, for inheritance tax, some of the non-UK assets in these trusts will also be within the inheritance tax net. So, is there any good news for non-doms?
There is a small amount of good news. There was a slightly surprising, I think, concession that where the trust was in place before the budget, so on the 29th of October, the gift with reservation of benefit rules won't be enforced, and that means that the assets will remain outside of the settlor's estate for inheritance tax purposes when they pass away. Any trusts created after that date, that concession won't be there. The other, I suppose, slightly good piece of good news is that offshore trusts where the settlor is dead are largely unimpacted by the rules at all, which is a relief, I think.
Okay, thank you. That's interesting. So, are there any other of the non-dom changes that are relevant for trust assets?
Yeah, and I think we've covered a lot of these in previous videos around the non-dom regime and the changes. But broadly speaking, the 4-year foreign income and gains, or FIG regime, will apply to income within the settlement, meaning that income that's inside a settlement where the FIG regime applies won't be liable to tax. Additionally, you've got the April 2017 rebasing for non-doms. Assets within a trust will not be applicable for that rebasing. And lastly, and probably another little bit of good news for a non-dom, is the TRF regime, the transitional regime, which allows you to declare certain income only at 12% tax. There is a provision where that income within the settlement can qualify for that new regime as well.
Okay, so trustees of these sorts of trusts, what should they be thinking about at the moment?
I think the most important thing, and this is always true, but now more than ever, is to really be talking to your settlers and understand why this trust exists and how and what they want to achieve. Because there are lots and lots of different things that you can do to help to mitigate some of the issues arising, but actually they're all very case specific and will only be helpful in certain situations. So understanding your settlers, drivers, what the most important things to them are, will then allow you to make the changes necessary to get the best out of the new regime.
And is there anything else they can be thinking of?
Yeah, definitely. One of the big things, and it's been a feature of offshore trusts for a number of years now, but record keeping is going to be one of the most key things for trustees to get right. We need to know what went into the trust. We need to know the income and gains that are arising in the trust, when they're arising, and how much is arising.
So then the final thing I think is going to be really important is keeping tabs on the settler and where they are in the world, because the inheritance tax is now going to be based on long-term residence. It means that your assets are going to be subject to IHT in the trust potentially for up to 10 years after the settler leaves the UK. And knowing where they are at all times is going to be essential to knowing what your tax obligations are as a trustee.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you very much. So essentially there is a lot to do actually before these new rules come in for trustees and their beneficiaries and the settlors. So definitely worth taking some advice, and certainly in the current tax year before any of the changes do come in. So thank you, Roger and Chris, for your time today. And if you'd like to know anything more about trusts and the impact of the new rules, please contact your usual Blick Rothenberg contact or one of us.